boomers might get mad at me here when saying like even the gold standard is not perfect because even that's manipulatable when it becomes a global current. Our real problem is that we're a global current. If we're a globalized society, to come up with a currency that fits a globalized society is impossible. Now, if you, I'll throw out a nice old word like a societas, like which is like a small knit community, which is what is probably the most ideal for producing saints. You know, a small tight knit community that trades among themselves and does the things and everything. Real easy to find a currency that works for that. Real easy. Seashells or rocks or paper or whatever it is. Really hard to find a currency that works ethically for a globalized society. But to your point, maybe you think the US dollar is slightly worse than Bitcoin. Maybe he thinks Bitcoin is slightly worse than US dollar. Then you have a legitimate reason to buy the Bitcoin because you're like, I want this. Like you want to promote it. I want this to be the currency, right? I want this to be the currency. So then maybe you have a legitimate reason as to buy it. But if you're just treating it as a speculative asset, I think you're committing that sin of speculation.
Yeah, it's more for the precious metals.
Yeah.
Because cash is just paper.
Yep.
I mean, gold and silver and stuff are actually worth something.
Yeah, they have a tangible value.
Mm-hmm. Now with the AI revolution, they're being used in semiconductors and such.
Yeah.
But I want to get to more of a spiritual talk at the end of our podcast. I want to go to, where do you think the next generation is going? Where do you think our society is going within the next 20, 30 years, especially with technology taking over, AI taking over? Like, how do you think we are going to remain spiritual as a people?
I've given this actually a fair amount of thought. I mean, it's a great question. I believe that Pope Benedict XVI was correct. He said that the church, and he wasn't just talking about the Catholic Church, he was talking about Christianity in general when he said this. I mean, he was definitely emphasizing the Catholic Church, but again, it applies to Christianity in general. I believe the church will become very devout, but very small. And that kind of pains me because obviously I have 5 kids. I'm bringing them up, and you know I have another 11 nieces and nephews that are all very young and everything. And like I want them to grow up in a spiritually rich world, but that's just not the case. And we know this from Scripture and from Revelation and everything. Like it's not the case. We should never. I tell this to everybody, and I tell this from In the Zone because we are a ministry, right? We're run by a ministry, and we try to implement the gospel in everything that we do, you know, from the AAU programs to Kia's American Christian League and everything, you know, praying before and after games or practices. And a lot of people, especially young people, you know, you kind of got like the spit and vinegar in you and everything, and you want to go and change the world. And what I like to remind Christians is like, Christ never said he came to make the world a better place. He actually said the opposite. Like, it's going to get worse. It's going to be bad out there. But what he did come for is you and you. He came for your soul. Like the world will not become a better place. Now, that doesn't mean we don't strive to make things better but our ultimate goal is not to make the world a better place. We need to get out of that mindset of making the world a better place and get into that mindset of like, what can we do? How can we better love our neighbor, which in turn will make the world a better place. But you can see this like difference in the mindset there. And that's why I like to tell a lot of people. So to remain spiritual, I mean, the masses, they're not going to.
I feel like that's something I struggle with because I think I'm that guy that you just mentioned, like the guy that believes they could change the world and bring all these. That's why
I don't want to discourage people like that.
Because I want it to start with our young men and young women, and then for it to like spread out to our communities, and then for the communities to change, you know?
And now think about it. I'm someone who does a bunch of nonprofits and I do these public speaking and all this stuff. And so in a sense, I'm trying to change the world. Like I wrote a book about like why we should ditch something that has been culturally ingrained financially into the entire Western world, right? Talking about the stock market and speculation and usury and everything. But at the same time, like I don't have this like short-term optimism that the world's going to change and, you know, a bunch of people are going to read my book and everyone's going to get out of the stock market. But like, I do believe, and I've seen it where like 1, 2, 3, 4 people, you know, read it, they'll make a change in their life, they'll do something better and it will enrich them. And that's what it's really about. It's like, again, yeah, we want the world to be as good as it possibly can be, but we need to focus on the people in front of us rather than the drastic change, because the drastic change will never come, but the change in an individual life is sure to come. And I say this to a lot of people. I mean, we live in the podcast world. We're on a podcast right now. Kia, your generation, 25,
Yeah.
you are the podcast generation. Like, you literally are. We're a little older, so we're not quite on that we're on like the cusp of that podcast generation. But I notice a lot of, my friends and family and stuff who are around your age and a little older, a little younger. They get very obsessed with like certain podcasters or certain things going on. And a lot of it now, as you can probably imagine, I mean, we had the war in Gaza and the war in Ukraine, and then we have the Epstein files and all these different like political and global things going on. And it's always like a lot of people who have really, really good intentions, they want to change everything. And they're like, these people, their feet should be held to the fire and there should be justice and everything like that. And my response to them is focus on you.